You ever notice how a man can sit right next to you on the couch, scrolling his phone, laughing at videos, nodding his head when you talk, but his spirit ain't really there? He's present in body, absent in intention, and you feel it in your chest like a little whisper saying something ain't right. Now listen to me carefully, because this right here is something people don't like to admit. When you disappear from a man's life for 7 days, when you stop calling, stop texting, stop checking, stop fixing what he broke, something real happens inside him. Not always what you expect, not always what you hope, but something always happens, because a man gets used to patterns. He gets used to knowing you'll answer on the second ring. He gets used to knowing you'll forgive before he apologizes. He gets used to knowing that no matter how careless he gets, you'll still be right there, holding the door open for his half, love to walk through. And when that pattern breaks, when that silence shows up like an empty chair at the dinner table, that man has to face something he'd been avoiding himself. Now don't get it twisted. The first thing some men feel ain't heartbreak, it's confusion. He looks at his phone like it betrayed him. He scrolls your chat like it's going to start typing by itself. He wonders if you mad, if you busy, if you sick, if you playing games, because he'd been used to you being predictable. And when you disappear, the control he thought he had slips right through his fingers like sand. And that's when the real test begins. Because in those 7 days, a man shows you who he really is. Some men feel relief. Yeah, I said it. Relief, because they were tired of pretending. Tired of saying, I love you, without meaning it. Tired of answering questions about a future they never planned to build. When you go silent, they breathe easier. They hang out with their friends, they laugh louder, they sleep better, and they don't check your page. That silence ain't teaching them a lesson, it's revealing their truths. But then there's another kind of man, the one who suddenly realizes the room feels colder, the one who hears a song on the radio and it sounds different. The one who goes to tell you something funny and remembers you ain't there. That man starts replaying memories like a movie he didn't appreciate while it was in theaters. He remembers how you looked at him like he was a king even when he was acting like a clown. He remembers the way you fixed things he broke, the way you encouraged him when he doubted himself, the way you stood beside him when the world turned its back. And here's the thing about a man's ego. It don't break easy, but when it cracks, it makes noise inside his soul. When you stop caring, he starts asking himself questions he'd been dodging. Did I push her away? Did I take her for granted? Was she really the one holding my life together while I was acting like I didn't need her? And those questions keep him up at night, not because he suddenly became perfect, but because he realized he lost comfort he didn't even notice he had. Now some men will call you after 3 days. Not because they miss you, but because they miss control. They want to check if you're still reachable, still waiting, still theirs. They'll send a dry text. Hey, you okay? Like they ain't been ignoring you for weeks. That ain't love talking. That's possession whispering. That's habit knocking on your door. And if you answer too fast, you teach him something dangerous, that you disappearing was just a temporary glitch, not a real consequence. But when a man truly cares, when he values you deeper than convenience, your silence becomes a mirror. He starts remembering your worth. He starts realizing he'd been lazy with your heart. He starts understanding that attention is currency, and he'd been broke while you were investing gold. That kind of man don't just text, he reflects, he corrects, he shows up with intention instead of excuses. Because let me tell you something people don't like to hear. Silence don't make a man love you. It reveals if love was already there. You can disappear for 7 days, 7 months, 7 years. If he never loved you, he ain't gonna suddenly wake up poetic. He gonna move on like you were a commercial break in his show. But if love was buried under ego, distraction, immaturity or silence might shake him awake. And you gotta be honest with yourself too. Disappearing ain't about punishing him. It's about finding yourself. It's about remembering you existed before him. It's about hearing your own thoughts without his noise. Because sometimes you stop talking to him and realize peace feels better than confusion. Quiet feels safer than mixed signals. Loneliness feels lighter than being with someone who makes you doubt your worth. You see, a lot of people think love is loud. Flowers, messages, promises, late night calls. But real love shows up consistent. Real love don't disappear unless forced. Real love don't need tricks to stay. So when you go silent, you ain't manipulating him. You giving space for truth to walk in, and during those 7 days, you change too. You start noticing things you ignored. You notice how calm your mind gets. You notice how your phone don't control your mood. You notice how you laugh easier, sleep deeper, breathe lighter. And suddenly you ask yourself, Why was I begging for attention from someone who felt peaceful when I was gone? Because a man who values you don't need 7 days to remember you matter. He shows it daily. He protects your feelings like they're fragile glass. He speaks to you with respect even when he's angry. He makes plans that include you, not promises that delay you. He don't let you question your place in his life because he knows your presence is a blessing he ain't guaranteed. So when you disappear, watch closely. Not his words, his actions. Does he show up sincere or defensive? Does he apologize or blame? Does he try to understand or just try to win? Because a man's reaction to your absence tells you more than his speeches during your presence. And don't be scared of what you might learn, because sometimes you disappear and realize he never comes looking. And that hurts. Lord, that hurts deep, but it's a clean hurt. It's honest pain. It's better than living years in a lie, because now you know. Now you free. Now you stop wasting love on somebody who only liked you when it was convenient. And sometimes you disappear and he changes. Not overnight, not perfectly, but sincerely. He starts respecting your time. He listens more. He appreciates louder. He realizes love ain't guaranteed. It's earned daily. And that's when you decide if you still want him, not because he begged, but because he grew. But listen to me carefully. Don't disappear hoping to control him. Disappear to reconnect with yourself, because the right man won't need silence to value you. He'll value you while you're laughing, while you're talking, while you're quiet, while you're angry, while you're scared. He'll value you because he chose you with intention, not convenience. 7 days of silence can feel like forever. Your fingers itch to text. Your mind imagines him with somebody else. Your heart remembers his smile. But those 7 days teach discipline. They teach dignity. They teach you that your worth ain't measured by how fast he replies. Because at the end of it all, whether he comes back or not, whether he changes or not, whether he realizes your value or not, you will have learned something priceless. You will have learned that you don't need to chase love that don't chase you. You don't need to beg for attention from someone who should be honored to give it. You don't need to shrink yourself so somebody else can feel tall. And that's when a man really feels it. Not when you cry, not when you argue, but when you go quiet with peace in your heart and dignity in your step. So when he sees you glowing without him, living without him, smiling without him, that's when he understands what your presence truly meant. And by then, sometimes it's too late. And sometimes it's right on time. And sometimes he finally understands that love ain't about who stays when it's easy. It's about who shows up when silence speaks louder than words and still says, I'm here. I see you. I choose you. And you sit there realizing the loudest message you ever sent him was the quiet one you finally had the courage to keep going with while your heart steadied and your mind cleared and your worth stood tall waiting to see who would rise to meet it. And in that quiet, something else starts happening inside you that nobody talks about. You start remembering who you were before you started shrinking to fit somebody else's comfort. You start waking up without checking your phone first. You start laughing with friends without that heavy thought sitting in the back of your mind wondering why he ain't called. You start noticing your own strength, the way your shoulders sit straighter, the way your voice sounds firmer when you say no, the way your heart beats calmer when you stop chasing somebody who is comfortable being chased. And a man can feel that shift even when you ain't said a word. Don't ask me how, but it's real. He'll see your picture and notice something different in your eyes. He'll hear about you doing fine without him, and it'll hit his pride like cold water. Because a man who took you for granted always assumed you'd be there. He thought your love was permanent like furniture in his house. He thought he could ignore you today and hug you tomorrow and everything would be the same. And when you disappear and don't come running back, it forces him to realize love ain't furniture. It's a living thing. It needs care. It needs respect. It needs attention. So now listen carefully, because this part right here is important. Some men don't come back because they can't. Not because they don't want to, but because facing their mistakes means facing their own shortcomings. It means admitting they were wrong. It means saying, I hurt somebody who didn't deserve it. And some men ain't mature enough to carry that truth. So they hide behind pride. They pretend they don't care. They act like you were the problem. They go find somebody new who don't know their history. That's not your failure. That's their limitation. Because a real man, when he realizes he hurt you, he don't run. He don't hide. He steps up. He fixes. He learns. He grows. He says, I was wrong and I'm going to do better. And then he proves it with consistency, not just pretty words. Because words are easy, words are cheap. Anybody can text you sweet things at midnight, but showing up every day with respect, Patience, honesty, that's the real currency. And in those 7 days, he starts noticing the little things he ignored. The way you used to ask if he ate. The way you encouraged him when he was doubting himself. The way you laughed at his jokes even when they weren't funny. The way you made his world softer just by being in it. And suddenly the silence feels loud. It echoes in his apartment. It sits beside him in the car. It follows him into sleep. But here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Sometimes he don't change. Sometimes he calls you promises the moon, apologizes like a poet, and then goes right back to his old habits. Because missing you ain't the same as valuing you. Missing you is emotion. Valuing you is discipline. And discipline shows up every day, not just when he's scared of losing you. So when he comes back, if he comes back, you gotta watch. Not his excitement, not his tears, not his long messages. Watch his consistency. Does he listen when you talk? Does he respect your time? Does he include you in his plans? Does he keep his word when it's inconvenient? Because a man who truly changed don't just want you back. He wants to be worthy of you staying. And while all that is happening, you're learning something deeper about love. You're learning that love without respect is just attachment. Love without effort is just habit. Love without honesty is just illusion. And you start realizing you deserve more than crumbs handed to you between excuses. You start noticing how peaceful life feels without constant anxiety. You start understanding that being alone ain't loneliness, it's clarity. You start seeing that your heart don't have to race every time your phone buzzes, hoping it's him finally acting right. You start tasting freedom and it tastes sweet. And that's when something powerful happens. You stop disappearing to make him react. You disappear because you know your worth. You walk away not as a punishment, but as protection. You stop chasing because you realize real love walks beside you. It don't run away from you. And a man who sees that, he either steps up or steps out. There's no middle ground anymore. Because when a woman finds her dignity, confusion loses its power, games stop working, half love stops being enough. Now I know your heart be saying, but what if he changes? That's natural. That's hope. Hope ain't wrong. But hope got to be paired with standards, because you can't keep giving chances to somebody who keep giving excuses. You can't keep sacrificing your peace hoping he'll wake up one day and become somebody he never showed you wanted to be. If he values you, he'll show it. He'll call because he wants to hear your voice, not because he's bored. He'll make plans because he sees a future, not because he needs companies. He'll respect your silence because he understands you ain't playing, you protecting your heart. And sometimes those 7 days show you something unexpected. So you realize you don't miss him as much as you thought. You miss the idea of him. You miss the hope of what could have been. You miss the comfort of not being alone. But you don't miss the confusion, the late replies, the empty promises, the feeling of being second place in somebody's life. That realization is powerful because now you're free. Free to love somebody who loves you right. Free to walk away from situations that drain you. Free to choose peace over chaos. And a man who comes back after you found that peace better come correct. Because now you ain't the same woman he ignored. You stronger. You wiser. You calmer. You ain't impressed by talk. You watching behavior. You ain't begging for time. You expecting effort. You ain't settling for attention. You demanding respect. And that scares some men. Because they liked you when you were easy to keep, not when you were hard to lose. They liked you when you tolerated everything, not when you started expecting better. But the right man, he admires that, he respects that. He thanks God for a woman who knows her worth. Because a real man don't want a woman who needs him. He wants a woman who chooses him. And when you disappear and find your strength, you show him your choice, not a dependency. So those 7 days ain't just silence. They are revelation. They show you his character. They show you your value. They show you the truth hiding under comfort and routine. And sometimes when you finally talk again, the conversation feels different. You ain't desperate. You ain't emotional. You calm, you clear, you say what you need. You listen to what he says. And you decide with wisdom, not fear. And maybe you give him another chance. Maybe you walk away forever. Either way you win, because you stopped accepting less than you deserve. Because love ain't supposed to feel like confusion every day. Love ain't supposed to make you question your worth. Love ain't supposed to feel like you fighting alone. A man who values you will show it when you're there, not just when you're gone. He'll protect your peace. He'll honor your heart. He'll stand beside you like a partner, not treat you like an option. And when you disappear and he realizes what he lost, that moment can change him, but it can also confirm what you already felt, that he never saw your value in the first place. Either way, those 7 days teach you something priceless. They teach you patience. They teach you discipline. They teach you that your presence is a gift, not a guarantee. And once you learn that, once you feel that truth deep in your bones, you stop begging for attention. You stop explaining your worth. You stop chasing people who keep walking away. Because you finally understand that the loudest love is respect. The deepest love is consistency. The truest love is effort. And when you disappear from a man's life and he shows up ready to match that truth, ready to grow, ready to love you right, you look at him with clear eyes and a steady heart, knowing you can walk away if you need to, knowing you can stay if he proves himself, knowing that your silence didn't just teach him something, it taught you who you really are, strong enough to stand alone, wise enough to choose carefully, calm enough to wait for love that doesn't make you question your place, steady enough to keep walking forward even when your heart whispers his name, and brave enough to keep your peace no matter who tries to take it from you, while you keep learning, keep growing, keep loving with standards instead of fear, and keep moving with dignity that no silence, no absence, no man's confusion can ever take away, while the lesson keeps echoing quietly in your soul, reminding you every single day that the way a man reacts when you stop caring shows you exactly how much he cared all along, and gives you the strength to keep stepping forward into a life where your love is valued, your heart is protected, your time is respected, and your presence is never taken for granted again, while you keep breathing deeper, thinking clear, walking taller, loving smarter, and holding on to the peace you discovered in that quiet space where you finally realized your worth didn't depend on his attention, and never did he. And when you stay quiet long enough, you start hearing truths that noise was hiding. You start remembering every time you explained your feelings and he brushed them off like dust on his jacket. You remember every promise he made in excitement that disappeared in routines. You remember the nights you stayed up worrying about him while he slept peacefully without thinking about you once. And suddenly you realize you weren't asking for too much, you were asking the wrong person. Because a man who truly values you doesn't need to be reminded you exist. He don't need to be chased to treat you right. He don't need to lose you to understand your importance. That kind of man protects what he loves before it's threatened. He guards your heart before it cracks. He listens before you have to scream. But some men don't wake up until silence shakes them. They don't understand appreciation until absence hits them in the chest. They don't recognize loyalty until it walks out the door. And when that realization comes, it feels like a storm inside them. They start remembering the details they ignored, the way you looked at them with pride, the way you supported their dreams, the way you forgave them when they didn't deserve it. And pride starts whispering, don't call her. Ego starts saying she'll come back. Fear starts saying, what if she's gone for good? And that fight inside him shows you who he really is. Because a man controlled by ego stays silent. A man guided by love reaches out with humility. Now sometimes he'll call you with jokes like nothing happened. He'll act casual like you just went on vacation. He'll try to ease back into your life without addressing the pain he caused. That's not growth, that's avoidance wearing a smile. And if you accept that without boundaries, you teach him he don't have to change to keep you. But when a man truly sees your worth, he comes different. His voice softer, his tone honest, his words clear. He don't argue with your feelings, he listens. He don't blame you for his mistakes, he owns them. He don't rush you to forgive. He earns your trust back step by step. And those steps are slow. Because rebuilding trust ain't quick. It's patience, it's consistency. It's showing up when it's inconvenient. It's choosing you when nobody's watching. It's respect when he's angry. It's honesty when lies would be easier. While all that is happening, your heart is changing too. You start realizing how powerful your presence is. You understand that your attention is valuable. You see how your energy shapes your world. And you stop giving that energy to people who treat it like it's disposable. You start setting boundaries. Not threats you never enforce, not warnings you ignore, but calm, steady limits that protect your peace. You stop explaining your worth over and over. You stop convincing someone to see you clearly. Because if a man needs constant reminders to value you, he don't deserve constant access to you. And in that growth, something beautiful happens. You start loving yourself differently. You start speaking kindly to your own heart. You start doing things that make you happy without needing anyone's approval. You rediscover hobbies, friendships, dreams you put aside trying to fix somebody else's chaos. And a man watching from the outside notices that glow. He sees confidence replacing insecurity. He sees calm replacing anxiety. He sees independence replacing desperation. And that realization hits him harder than any argument you ever had. Because when you're no longer chasing him, he got to chase truth. He got to ask himself why he didn't value something real. He got to face the possibility that he lost someone irreplaceable because of his own carelessness. But here's the truth people avoid. Sometimes he learns too late. Sometimes he realizes your worth when you've already healed. Sometimes he comes back when your heart already moved on. And that's life. That's consequence. That's growth happening in different timelines. And you got to be strong enough to accept that timing matters. Love can be real and still not be right. Feelings can be deep and still not be enough, because love without effort dies quietly. Love without respect fades slowly. Love without honesty breaks eventually. So when he comes back saying he misses you, you got to ask yourself something important. Does he miss me, or does he miss the comfort I gave him? Does he miss my presence, or does he miss the convenience I provided? Does he miss my heart, or does he miss the attention I gave freely? Those questions protect you. They keep you grounded. They stop you from falling into the same cycle. Because missing you ain't proof of love. Changing for you is. And sometimes when you finally talk again, you hear something in his voice you never heard before. Accountability, respect, understanding. And you realize silence taught him something words couldn't. But other times, you hear the same excuses, just dressed prettier. You hear promises without plans. You hear apologies without effort. And that's when you walk away with peace, not anger. Because now you know. And knowledge is power. It frees you from confusion. It frees you from hope that keeps hurting you. It frees you from loving someone who didn't know how to love you back. You start seeing relationships differently. You stop ignoring red flags. You stop accepting crumbs. You stop staying where you're tolerated instead of celebrated. And when you meet a man who values you right, it feels calm. No guessing games. No mixed signals. No silent treatments. No emotional roller coasters. Just respect, effort, honesty. And you realize love ain't supposed to feel like a battlefield, because a man who truly cares don't disappear on you. He don't make you question your place. He don't leave you feeling insecure. He shows up. He communicates. He protects your heart like it's part of his own. So those 7 days of silence become a lesson you carry forever. They teach you patience. They teach you self-respect. They teach you emotional discipline. They show you that your worth ain't measured by how hard you love someone. It's measured by how well someone treats you in return, because love ain't one-sided sacrifice. It's mutual care. And when you finally understand that, you stop chasing approval. You stop begging for attention. You stop settling for less than you deserve. You walk differently. So you speak differently. You love differently. You choose differently. And a man sees that change immediately, because confidence has a sound. Peace has a presence. Self-respect has a glow. He'll either rise to meet you or he'll fade away. And either way, you win. Because now you know you can survive without him. You know your happiness don't depend on his mood. You know your value don't change based on his attention. And that knowledge gives you strength you didn't know you had. It gives you clarity when emotions try to confuse you. It gives you courage when loneliness tries to scare you. Because loneliness passes, regret stays. So when you disappear and he realizes what he lost, he might come running, he might apologize, he might promise forever. But you listen with wisdom now. You watch with patience now. You decide with self-respect now.